I want to talk about Sinners. I have just finished crying because I hate myself. And I hate when people are mean to me. Robert is also kind of like here. So if you see me kind of reaching in, there we go. Just, I have always wanted to see a film that has made me feel so seen and so moved. And Sinners was that. It's a horror film for stars. It's vampires. I've got my little Sisters of Mercy ting on. It's the mixed race coconut likes horror. Fuck, who would have thought of that? Um, but it was also, you've got a like voodoo priestess in it, and we're talking about Jack O'Connell from Skins days as a vampire. Yes, teenage me is like, we wrote a fan fiction about this. No, um, no is the answer. Don't look for it. People have tried and people have failed. You will not find that. It is buried. Thank you. I had a couple of notes, some things I want to talk about from the film that I thought were really cool. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was the idea of freedom and the idea of when are you free. It made me really sad, and I think this was the bit that I cried at when they say, that was that the best day of your life for you as well, not just me? And they go, yeah, I mean, it was the last time I was in community. It was the last time I had a moment of peace. It was the last moment I was free. And that moment is the juke joint. It's the party, it's the art, it's the music that stirs you and moves you so much that that weight is lifted for 2 seconds and it is worth it. Obviously, different context between me hating my job and Jim Crow, but knew it was coming, still cried. That is exactly how I feel about art. That is how I feel about art and music and the stories that are told and the lessons I can learn. And I'm liberated from the state of fear, this absolute terror of all the unknown and all the things that I can't control out there in the world right now. There is something that my hands can make. There is something that I can bring into existence that looks nice, tells a story, connects to a context. I remember being taught in high school about blues. And by taught, I mean I was shown roots and then played some like Smoking Wolf. But even then, I remember getting so angry that the only bit we were being told was this weakness and submission, and that is just not the truth. There are so many, under such oppression, there are so many creatives who whose vocation, if you will, is to just bring that light and liberation for 1 second. It reminds me that through art and through culture, I have experienced more of, air quotes, my people than in real life. Maybe that's the kind of person I am. Maybe that's how I get to witness them. But it speaks of the power that that reminder and that momentary liberation holds. But it's so important. Storytelling like this, where I'm so moved and reminded that this is why we create. It's not all for, the money, the glory. Yeah, that'd be great if I get it, but is the money and the glory gonna stop me crying? What am I trying to say here? Creation is liberation. Everyone wants a simple nuance, and there is not a simplicity to be had within my being. But what makes me feel seen is this madness within creativity. When creatives say, I couldn't think of anything else, I feel possessed, I feel conjured, it is in a way in itself magic. For a couple of minutes, I feel so seen. My madness isn't madness, it's being a creative. My mouthiness isn't mouthiness, it's being a writer and choosing your words. Not being able to think in words, but being able to think in colours and symbols and pictures. They close their eyes and they sing this song, and that is how I feel about art for a reason. So I think it's a really interesting idea to then kind of uh, adhere that to a supernatural narrative. So the main things that I wanted to go through, the things I've got written down, looking down at my notes, the griot, that is where I felt seen. It's something that I was kind of aware of before this anyway. Um, but this idea of the importance of the creative, of the shaman, of the other thinker, the lateral thinker in communities. They talk about the Choctaw people, kind of Irish folklore, and in West African mythology slash culture slash practice, griots are the storytellers, the ones that carry the story and keep it going. But that also brings to mind the idea of like black sheep. Um, Often people on their own, isolated to process it, they feel it in a way where it has to be portrayed, or it has to be portrayed in a particular way. I feel that. And I feel the same kind of curse as a creative. I kind of sympathize with Sammy a little bit. For some reason, I cannot put it down. No matter how much easier it would make my job in comparison if I didn't have this other thing that I enjoy so much. Every comment, I go, yeah, obviously I'm going to argue with that because I know I deserve way more. I know that my skill is not one to be disrespected in that way. So art attracts energy. I think art as a spiritual thing is something that I really deeply believe anyway. But this idea that the art is so powerful, not only does it attract the community, it attracts people who want to leech off it and misuse it in the same way. But then this community and the gathering for the party, gathering for the feast, the individual still relies on the community. And there's this joy, regardless. I can't read my own handwriting, so I'll pick up the damn piece of paper. Next point, protection against the people who want to use it in the wrong way. Leeches. I mean, energy vampire is a phrase that I've seen kind of floating about on the spiritual web. But I perceive capitalism to be that kind of energy vampire. Yes, it is a kind of trade for what you receive, but then when it's toxic and it's out of balance, you still have that kind of loss. And this idea of like a cannibalism, this consumption, and the idea that do you have to die to get peace? Do you have to? It's a lot of big ideas. We'll get to the art eventually. Let me talk. Let me talk. Let me talk. Um, Music channeling, spiritual nature of art, but also, as I kind of touched on, the spiritual connotations to the words that are being used here. Does this mean that the artist has a responsibility as the griot, as the one that holds the folklore, the one that passes it down? Is that why Sammy can't put the guitar down? Because he knows that this feeling and this gift has to be used for something, or is it the temptation? Is it a case of, you can't quit before you've seen it through? This idea of running, is it something you can escape? Oh God, it was just so beautiful. There's a phrase that I learned. I think it was in Antwerp, but I think it's in Dutch. Um, there's the famous author, um, Het Licht. And I remember being told this when I was a little bit younger, and as a metaphor for will o' the wisps, this light that endures, the enduring light, or something that follows you around wherever you go. And before I kind of understood the context of the piece, I kind of had seen this as some sort of hope, some sort of enduring light. And like that, do the consequences and the evil follow you around? You know, if you hold on to certain artifacts, hold on to certain truths, or do you have to choose which path to follow? And then you've got the blues singer who sold his soul. I can't remember what the name of the guy was, but I think it's interesting, the guitar bit at the end. I think if we're basing it on folklore, that's a really interesting one to point out. Um, I'm aware of the story of one of the first blues singers supposedly selling his soul for the music and then not being able to stop even when he wanted to. And I think the interesting use of, I think it's Buddy Guy at the end of the show, he talks about, surviving Chuck Berry, and Chuck Berry said, all you've got to do is keep the music going. You've just got to keep it going because that is a vocation of sorts. And he did. Now he's in this film about blues and a new generation of people who I know kind of sea shanty music had a bit of a moment recently, but this kind of historic alternative, we'll say. The last few things that I wanted to, other kind of afterthoughts, the conclusions. Is it worth it? Is hello? Is all of the pain and all of the fighting worth it for those few moments of liberation? Sammy stays on the road. He goes, I can't give this up for anyone, anything. And that's so fair. um, is the creativity worth fighting for? Is that creative liberation worth toda la mierda? Yeah, yeah. It is every day for me. I came home, I'm filming, crying, and I'm going, well, at least I get to create at the end of it. Still on the road. I am on the metaphorical road. I've kind of taken my run. I've realised I can't drop the guitar. And I guess we're just seeing where the road takes us, huh? Who said being a creative was a stable career? Stable? I don't know her. The only stable no, I'm not gonna do that dad joke, but I think there's a couple of artistic ideas, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate. God, how beautiful was that film? Anyway, sweet. That is the end. I'll maybe I'll see what comes of it. I'll see what comes of it, and I'm sure there will be a follow up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support that is making me not quit this. Mm. Still on the road with that.